Hello and welcome to Let That Sink In. My name is Tiffany Smith and I am the Director of Marketing and Communications here at PM & Associates. And I am joined by my co-host, Todd Morgan, outside sales rep from St. Louis. Hi, Todd. How you doing?
Hey, Tiffany. Good to see you.
Great to see you as always. And today we are so excited to welcome Scott Swanson, Regional Sales Manager from InSinkErator. Hi, Scott.
Hi there, Tiffany and Todd. Thank you for this. I'm very excited about it.
Oh,
yeah,
we
thanks
are
for being
so
here.
excited to have you on the show today. Well,
Yeah.
let's just jump right in. Why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about yourself, Scott, and your career at InSinkErator and beyond.
Sure. So I guess over the last, I've been in this industry now going on 30 years, a little over 30 years. It goes quick, but I've really enjoyed it. I've started out in wholesale distribution, and then I worked for manufacturers like Moen and others, and now I'm with InSinkErator and have been at InSinkErator the last 8 years. And I work across the central region of the United States on our wholesale side, working with the PM and associates of the world. So I work with the agencies and the customers throughout that region. So that's what I do today or in the past.
We've been very lucky to have Scott as a regional for several years now. So we've worked together for quite a while now.
Yeah.
How long have you worked with him, Todd?
Well, Scott and I, since I've come back to PM, which actually prior to PM, we were working together.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a few years. It's been several years. It's almost 8 years, I guess, because I came back in 2015 and we've worked together ever since. So
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, this is our first time meeting, but I've heard nothing but great things, Scott. So I'm excited to meet you and work together in the future. So
yeah, for
that's
sure.
super exciting. So
yeah, that's why this is an easy podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying to Scott earlier, with the amount of experience that we have, both of us with InSinkErator, we know the products very well. This is easy to talk about this product, but there is a lot of new things with InSinkErator these days, which is why I thought it'd be a great time to get Scott on, let that sink in, and talk about some of the next gen launch that we've introduced into the contractor and the Pro Series disposers. And, one of the things, Scott, that I had written anyway for a question, but almost like I said, almost don't need them because we know and have such a great history with InSinkErator. There have not been a lot of changes to the disposers for several years now. And Next Gen is introducing a load of new changes to the disposers in the Contractor Series and the Pro Series. Before we dive into the meat of what those changes are, and that's what we want to talk about today, part of the Next Gen launch is also that we have discontinued a few models and introduced some new models. Would you mind covering what we've discontinued and what we've introduced with Next Gen?
Sure. Yeah. Good stuff. One of the things that's pretty exciting about this launch, I think, is that today, for your listeners, we build disposers on essentially 2 chassis. And so the idea with this new launch was to get everything built on one chassis, Badger, Evolution, everything on one chassis. So what we've done, we had to streamline this a little bit. We had, the 880, for example, was a 7/8 horsepower model.
Mm-hmm.
It really didn't line up too well competitively in the market. It became a tweener type product where it was a little more than somebody buying a 3/4, for example. So the 880 went away. We had a Pro 1000 LP, which stood for low profile. It went away. It was a very expensive disposer. It was a great performing disposer, but we just didn't do well.
Mm-hmm.
So what we tried to do is streamline this new launch on the Advanced Series, which is what the former Pro is. So we have a 1250 today that replaces the 1100 XL. That was another kind of odd one. So 1.1 horsepower. Now we go to a 1.25.
Yeah, it is a great unit.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's a wonderful unit to watch actually in the lab too, and all the testing that went on. It was pretty impressive. And then we have that sort of middle of the Advanced Series and the Pro 1000.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to replace the 1000 LP. and that Pro 880. We're just trying to kind of remove some of the, duplication, make
Sure.
it easier for the wholesalers, less to stock.
Mhm.
There was not a lot of reason to have those. And then the 750 stays the same. And that's a 3/4 horsepower. So you're doing 1.25, 1, and then a 3/4. And then in the contractor series stays the same, no changes other than it's on a new chassis. So we can talk more about that. And that's going to be 1 horse in the contractor 1000, and then the contractor 333 is.
Would you say it's fair to say it's almost kind of the relaunch of the contractor 1000 because of the fact that we introduced it prior to COVID?
Yeah.
And then, of course, when COVID hit, because of production issues and needing the line, as you mentioned, we kind of suspended the 1000. So in a way, aren't we reintroducing the 1000 almost as a new product?
You're exactly right. We launched that in the middle of the pandemic. And so it was a really hard thing to even go around and show, people
Sure
were wanting a regional sales manager that traveled to come in and see them. You're right. And really, the contractor 1000 was never really given a good window of opportunity and runway. And now with this new launch, I think it's going to do really well. Particularly,
I do too.
It's a wholesale only product too. I just point out, so that's kind of a nice thing.
So great, Scott. So with the introduction of these new models, have all of the warranties stayed the same?
Stayed the same or got better. So we have several models that extended another year, and the bulk of them stayed the same. But so the nice thing about the warranties in this new launch is we're going to have a year longer warranty than similar models that are in the retail channel. So another thing for the wholesalers to know about that product line.
That's great.
That's awesome. So, and that's something that we have been doing just to let anybody who's watching the podcast know that part of our training is going over those warranty changes and making sure everybody has that information. We leave information on paper behind as well to help you remember the changes to the warranties. But as Scott mentioned, nothing went the wrong way. Everything stayed the same,
right?
Or
it
better.
did get better. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I would one thing on warranty, just real quick to interject here, but the other advantage on this side of the tracks on the wholesale side is that we do have that over-the-counter warranty.
Yes.
So for an example, if you bought a disposer at Home Depot, you couldn't just take it back and swap it out for another one. If it was defective, they would make you work through, a service agency. And now with these, they can bring it back to a wholesaler and get the label and get off to the races in the unlikely event anything happens. So kind of a nice thing, another advantage on the wholesale.
Is that for the life of the warranty, Scott?
It is.
That's impressive then.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these carry a 12-year warranty. So
right.
That is impressive. So that's great. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Well, why don't we jump into the meat of the changes that were introduced with Next Gen into our Contractor and Pro series? Scott, as I'm going about training, these changes to me seem to be extremely beneficial for the contractor, the person putting it in.
Right.
Obviously, we already know the Pro Series as a consumer is a workhorse. It's going to do what you need it to do. It's going to allow you to grind almost 100% of the food that you eat can go down the disposer. Next Gen, to me, seems to introduce a lot of advantages for the contractor that's putting in this unit. So with that cord, we've got the new Easy Connect cord. We've got the removable baffle, things like that. Of course, lift and latch to me is an incredible improvement. And we should state too that lift and latch is not part of the Next Gen. It's been around, a year and a half, maybe. Right. But as I'm doing my training running around, what I'm finding is a lot of people aren't familiar with the lift and latch. So with all of these changes, could you maybe explain to us, start with lift and latch, and then tell us what some of the new Next Gen changes that you've introduced into the line are?
Sure. So lift and latch is a pretty neat feature. If you've ever put in a disposer, it's usually you're tired and it's a Sunday morning and you're laying underneath that sink, and plumbers do it way more than I've had to, but it was really a challenge to spin that ring to get that thing. You're holding a 16-pound or so disposer over you, and you're trying with one hand to hold that disposer up, and then the other hand to spin that ring to engage that quick lock mount. It didn't seem very quick to me when I was doing it. We called it a quick lock mount. It was not quick, and I'm not handy, but In any event, so what we did was we actually put a notch in the body of the disposer and have a little notch in the quick lock mount ring that
Okay.
then seats itself down and it won't spin. So you can literally take the disposer 2 hands and turn it. And so pretty neat. It's a whole lot easier way to go. There was a little bit of confusion. A lot of the people, like Todd said, you know, when the feature first came out, they thought something was wrong with the disposer.
Yeah.
So it does take some communication on it, but it's a
Sure.
really neat feature once everybody understands it.
Right.
I think it's
And
outstanding.
super simple to operate, obviously.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, and having that second hand to grab and grip the body of
Yeah.
the unit is so huge, because I'm sitting here holding this unit in my office. You got to keep
Right.
in mind, this is a contractor who's underneath a sink at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're already in an awkward position as it
Mhm.
is. And then to grab
Tight,
that
awkward
collar.
position.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So
right.
just so you know, again, lift and latch, as we talk about this on the podcast, a little difficult to explain. I tried to visually show that.
Yeah.
But there are videos on our YouTube channel that can help you understand lift and latch. And we
Yes,
have also
Todd
done
just did a fantastic On Tuesday We Train. That's located
I saw
on
it.
our YouTube channel. So he did a great job of
Excellent.
walking us through the whole process. Yes.
Good. Yeah.
So what other changes have you introduced for next gen?
Well, you talked about Easy Connect, Todd, and the wiring system and the power system, and you know, Easy Connect is, I think, going to be a real game changer for the contractor. This is just an amazing feature that the engineers came up with. If you've ever wired up a disposer, it requires some dexterity, let's call it, and you've got to get in there and pull wires on the existing disposers. And so now what the engineers have done is taken like a plug and play kind of system. And that's the bottom of the disposer there. I mean,
Inside the unit.
Inside
that
the
would
unit.
be the bottom exterior of the unit.
Exactly. And that just plugs. So, we have a hardwire adapter, and Todd has the cord assembly right there, and that's it. There is a screw that sets that in there so that it doesn't continue to move right there. And then you're off to the races. I mean, I think this is going to be a really neat opportunity for people to save a whole bunch of money when you're time and money putting these in. The hardwire adapter, same kind of thing. Very easy to put in. I think even I could do that one.
Me too.
Oh goodness. So pretty neat. The one question that I have been asked recently with this release that I think is important to just point out to people, these cords are only compatible with Easy Connect cords. So you can't take an existing cord, InSinkErator or other manufacturer, simply because these are hard copper wire compatible. And all the cords out there today are stranded. So you don't want to do that. So anyways, but I think it's a pretty cool feature. And as we walk through the other features, you can tell we were thinking about a couple things. We were trying to make it easy to put these things in. Mm-hmm. And we really tried to reach out to plumbers, wholesalers, anybody who had a strong opinion about anything, and try and listen to them. And so, the next part,
I think that shows definitely.
It
absolutely
does.
in the product. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And then the next one was, that dishwasher plug. In the old days, the dishwasher knockout, you had to literally take a screwdriver, knock that thing out. You had to remember to do that.
Yeah.
And then once if you did it, then you had to remember not to leave it in the disposer. A lot of stuff that could go on. And so this new dishwasher plug is so cool. You use the unjamming wrench. You can actually remove it and reinstall it if need be. So we thought that was a pretty neat thing. It has a lip on there, so you can't install the dishwasher hose over it. If you ignore all the instructions, like sometimes I do, you can't even put it on. So you'd be like, oh, I have to remove this, and then it would install. So again, that's an installation feature, we thought. And then, just one other thing, and then we can go on to a different topic, but we really wanted to make the disposer, this is on a new chassis, like I mentioned. We really wanted to reconfigure this so that it was quieter, because people really think about a couple things: being quieter and not being, having smells, right? And so we really tried to re-engineer this thing to be a lot quieter. Small things, inside of the disposers, there's no blades. They're very safe. But those lugs that rotate in there. Yep, right there. Those are today in the next gen, those are powdered lugs. So they're a coated lug. They make next to no noise. They're really quiet, all stainless steel in there. And then, you've shown the insulation there. So a lot of stuff to make it quieter, and grind performance is vastly improved. So, but that's kind of what we were trying to do. Make it easier on people, make it a little quieter and cleaner.
I want to talk a moment about the baffle as well, if I may. Again, this is not a change that we've made other than adding some removable baffles into the contractor series, which is awesome. This removable baffle in your contractor and pro series is also one of the main defenses against that sound that Scott's talking about. Essentially, that grind chamber is a megaphone if you don't have anything capping it. So as we're grinding food inside that chamber, the volume's getting amplified right out of the hole, if you will, in the sink. It's like a megaphone.
Sure.
This is actually engineered, and you might even get some callbacks occasionally when you sell a pro unit, that the sink isn't draining fast enough. That's actually by design. This is designed to allow water to pool over top of it, essentially creating its own cap. That's capping the megaphone, if you will, right?
Yep.
And stopping that amplification from coming out. So by design, this will break in over time, of course, as you're pushing food through it.
Yep.
But it is by design engineered to have water pooling on top of it. And that is one of our major sound defenses that we build into the Pro Series disposer. And then, of course, the fact that it is removable, this underside can get really nasty if you use your disposer a lot like I do.
Yep.
So it pops right out. You can either wash it by hand if you can stand to do it, or you throw it in your dishwasher.
I was going to say, can you put that thing in the dishwasher? That's
top
amazing.
shelf dishwasher.
Yeah.
Give it a clean,
great.
pop it back in, and
that's fantastic.
Grind a lemon, and your grind chamber will smell wonderful.
That's
too.
awesome.
That's exactly right. Good point, Todd.
Thank you.
That's great. I love it. Well, Scott, talk to me about the multi-grind technology. Our contractor and pro series disposers feature the multi-grind technology. Can you explain a little bit more about what that technology is?
Yeah, in essence, multi-grind technology is, think of it in terms of the number of times that food gets ground in the chamber.
Yep.
So when we talk about 2 or 3 or 4 stages, that means that the food is going through that many cycles to grind up. And so, you're going to have a particulate size in a 2-stage grind that's going to be slightly larger than a 3-stage, and then slightly smaller, obviously, in the 4. So what we try and do, what that does for everybody, and why you do the different stages of grind, is obviously by the time you get to 4 stages, you've almost liquefied the food. I mean, you're 90+% water, and that means it's good for your pipes. It's a lot, it's a whole lot better grind performance too. You're going to get, you're going to not create plumbing issues for yourself. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And he's correct. I have a Pro Series disposer that's got 3 stages of grind in my house, and have had it for probably 5 years solid. And I kid you not when I say personally, I grind probably about 80 to 85% of my food waste. I mentioned earlier you can grind up to upwards of almost 100%, but I'm in the 85% range. There's just certain things I don't want to hear, quite honestly, like a steak bone or something like that. But I'll put the bones of a rotisserie chicken down my absolutely, because even that bone fragment is going to end up about the size of a half a grain of rice, ultimately.
Yeah.
And as Scott alluded, as long as there's water flowing and you've got that small particulate of food waste, it's going to go through the trap, down your system, and quite honestly, to the wastewater treatment plant, where they are already set up to handle biosolids. So sending your food waste down the disposer is also a green movement as well. I mean, it's so
it's a pretty impactful way, and it's a small thing that you can do to really benefit the environment in a big way. It really is. So it's pretty exciting to be part of that.
That's fantastic. We need to do some on-site on Tuesday We Trains at your house.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Featuring the rotisserie chickens, Todd.
Well,
That's what we need to do.
That could be
if I
exciting.
may, I told Scott about this, but we did a training recently where we actually had a Badger 5, Contractor 333, then we had the Pro 750 and a Pro 1250 all installed in a working setting.
Yeah.
Then the contractor actually built a contraption where they put a filter screen on the down line of the plumbing. And we would start with the Badger, and we would grind some food in the Badger, and then we'd go pull that filter screen and look at how large the particles were.
Wow.
Okay. And the ones coming from the Badger were, they were larger than you're going to get from a Pro, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Then we started grinding with the Pro and pulling the filter screen out. I sent pictures to Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, these literally just become tiny little fragments
like particles
of nothing.
Yeah.
And but that was the first time I've had a chance to visually pull a filter screen and look at what's going on there. And I completely understand why your pipes don't clog when you grind through a multi-grind product from InSinkErator. So talking about the stage 1, 2, and 3, Next Gen has introduced a 4th stage of grind. And Scott, I'm going to hold this up and have you explain, because this paddle right here represents that 4th stage of grind. By the way, that represents the 3rd stage of grinding, is that food's got to pass through this after it's already been cut twice. Right.
Wow.
Goes through a 3rd stage. Then it's now hitting our new 4th stage of grind. Scott, explain that
chance.
for me, please.
There's no chance for it.
No chance. Yeah, that's right. It's done.
There's no turning back.
That paddle is pretty cool. So in Pro Series disposers, previous generation, we had auto reverse. And I know a lot of people have said, hey, what happened to auto reverse? Well, this is kind of what happened to auto reverse. It was an extra part. It was an extra piece. It was something else that could potentially go wrong. We didn't have problems with it. But one of the things we wanted to do is with auto reverse, really what it did was clean the chamber, because it would just change direction, not based on jamming or anything. It would just, every time you'd start it up, it would change a direction. And the idea was to flush the water in an opposite direction, keep it smelling better. So what they did was, let's make this simpler. And so those cleansing paddles, that 4th stage of grind, we're calling it, cleanses that grind chamber so that you don't have that food waste that sort of accumulates in there. So it's a pretty neat feature. We've simplified something, and I think you're going to have a whole lot better benefit, and we can put it into more models as we move through it.
And that currently is available in the Pro 1000 and Pro 1250 models, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's
excellent.
Great. Well, I know, Scott, that Todd had mentioned the Contractor 333 a little earlier, and I know I'd seen some nice improvements as well. Can you talk about some of those changes that InSinkErator has made to the Contractor 333?
Oh, yeah. So I'm really excited about the Contractor. I'm excited about all of them, but the Contractor is a really neat deal, because it used to be built on the Badger chassis, which is a little noisier chassis. So they've now put it on a quieter chassis. So this is really a good value play. It's a whole lot better disposer than the Badger as far as performance and features. And it's gonna last a lot longer, and it's gonna provide the people with some value. You have one of these a house, per house, people, and it's really, I would just counsel you to try this. But the Contractor 333 is going to get that removable, dishwasher plug. It's going to have the easy connect for yourself. It's going to have all stainless steel grinding components, powdered lugs in there. So it's going to be a lot quieter, lot nicer disposer. I think it's 7-year warranty on the 333. And 8 on the Contractor 1000. But so that Contractor series really is a value play. And I hope people try that one out a lot more, because that really is, I think it's kind of the right thing. That's where the market should be in disposers. And then as people who have these quiet appliance packs and all those things that they do and they build a house, then you start thinking about advanced series and getting quieter if that's what's important to you. But Contractor 333 is, I think, dollar for dollar, it's our fighter.
Absolutely. It's a great unit. The Contractor units are awesome. Jay, just making that jump into that stainless steel grind chamber and the removable baffle is definitely worth the upgrade, I believe, from the Badger 5 up into that Contractor 333 unit.
Yep. I agree.
So let's see, Scott, we've talked about the drain plug. We've covered the insulation. We've talked about the Easy Connect plug, and we've also done lift and latch. Have we missed anything on the next gen other than introducing better warranties? Have I missed anything?
No, the only thing I want to point out when I get involved with talking to people about disposers is that I'm very proud of the fact that InSinkErator is the only residential manufacturer of disposers in the United States. So
Yes.
when you see different manufacturers that I won't mention that you might think are domestic, they're not. The other thing, we have 1,100 people in Racine, Wisconsin that build these. And I will tell you that when I get back, they take this personally. They really want to build a good unit, and they try. And so I'm honored to be part of that team. So Todd, I wanted to point that out. And then we're the only people in the market currently that I'm aware of anyways, that have induction motors, and induction motors are a more heavy duty motor. We've probably overbuilt a lot of our disposers, but everything else coming in from China is permanent magnet. So just want people to know that it still matters to us to have products made in the United States. And so I wanted people to know that we're the last of them. And so
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah. I really am glad you brought that up because that's something I'm very proud of as well as a representative for InSinkErator. So thanks for bringing that up. And thank you to the 1,100 people back at InSinkErator who are making an incredible unit.
Yep, they sure do. Thank you for this too. This has been great.
Excellent. That's awesome. Well, you've been a wonderful guest, and I'm glad that we were able to you bring to light these changes because it's relatively new. I do want to mention that the next gen launch was right around July 3rd. So the content of Let That Sink In right now is very fresh for anybody who is selling InSinkErator. This is relatively new information.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott. We are so proud to be a partner with InSinkErator.
We are.
Thank you. PM's is one of the best agencies we have. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. And if anyone would like more information on InSinkErator or the next gen line, please reach out to PM and Associates online at p-massoc.com. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.